Most people think the Ku Klux Klan faded away on its own, exposed, embarrassed, and defeated by time. But that's not the truth. The KKK didn't disappear because it lost relevance. It was crushed by law, force, and direct government action. When I dug into this history, I realized how much of it was quietly removed from classrooms. Before I break this down, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because understanding how hate was actually confronted matters today. In this video, I'm breaking down the laws that crushed the KKK, the federal acts, military enforcement, and political decisions that directly targeted the organization at its peak of power. This isn't folklore or revisionism. It's documented history that shows what happened when the government chose to act decisively instead of looking the other way. The problem that needed solving. After the Civil War ended in 1865, Confederate veterans formed the Ku Klux Klan. They wore white robes and hoods to hide their identities, while terrorizing communities across the South. Their targets were freed slaves, black voters, and white people who supported Reconstruction. These weren't just isolated incidents. The Klan organized coordinated attacks, burning homes, whipping victims, and committing murders to stop Black Americans from voting or holding office. Local police often refused to help because they were either Klan members themselves or too afraid to act. State governments couldn't or wouldn't stop the violence. By 1870, entire counties lived under Klan terror. President Grant received reports of widespread racial violence, especially from South Carolina, where the situation had become desperate. Something had to change, and it had to come from the federal level. The First Enforcement Act of 1870. Congress passed the first major weapon against the Klan in May 1870. This law made it a federal crime to use violence or intimidation to stop people from voting. It specifically targeted the Klan's favorite tactics, like night riding and wearing disguises to commit crimes. The act gave federal courts the power to enforce voting rights, which was revolutionary at the time. Before this, voting rights violations were only handled by state courts, which often let Klan members walk free. The law also allowed the president to use the army and federal marshals to arrest offenders. It banned terror, force, and bribery aimed at preventing people from voting based on their race. Officials who failed to protect voting rights could face fines of $500 or 3 years in prison. For the first time, the federal government could directly punish people who attacked citizens exercising their constitutional rights. The Second Force Act of 1871. By February 1871, it was clear that more was needed. Congress passed a second act that put federal oversight on local elections. This law allowed federal judges and marshals to supervise polling places in towns with over 20,000 people. If 2 citizens in a town reported problems, federal officials could step in. The act focused on preventing election fraud and ensuring that votes were counted fairly. It added protections for the entire voting process, from registration to counting and certifying results. This was crucial because the Klan didn't just attack voters, they also threatened election officials to manipulate results. The law made it clear that free and fair elections weren't just a local matter anymore. They were a national priority backed by federal power. The Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871. The third law was the game changer. Passed in April 1871, this act went further than anything before it. It made state officials personally liable in federal court if they violated anyone's civil rights. The Klan's intimidation tactics became federal offenses. The law banned conspiracies that interfered with civil rights, including witness intimidation and political violence. Most importantly, it gave President Grant the power to suspend habeas corpus in areas where violence made normal law enforcement impossible. This meant the president could deploy troops and arrest suspected Klan members without charging them immediately. It also prohibited anyone suspected of being part of Klan conspiracies from serving on juries in Klan-related cases. This prevented Klan members from protecting each other in court. Attorney General Amos Ackerman personally led federal marshals and army troops against the Klan, traveling to South Carolina to oversee operations. Grant takes action. President Grant didn't hesitate to use his new powers. In October 1871, he declared 9 counties in South Carolina to be in a state of rebellion and suspended habeas corpus. Federal troops moved in, and mass arrests began. Over the next few months, Attorney General Ackerman and federal prosecutors indicted 3,000 Klan members across the South. 600 of them were convicted and sent to prison. The trials were historic because they often featured juries with Black Americans serving on them, something that would have been unthinkable just years earlier. Klansmen couldn't intimidate federal courts the way they had intimidated local ones. Many Klan members fled rather than face trial. Others received warnings and disbanded. The strategy worked. By 1872, the first Klan had been completely crushed. It wouldn't resurface in any meaningful way until 1915. Why this worked? These laws worked because they tackled the problem at every level. They made Klan violence a federal crime, removed enforcement from biased local officials, and gave the president military authority to restore order. Federal courts handled cases where local juries were unreliable, and officials were held accountable for failing to protect citizens. With criminal penalties, federal oversight, and military intervention, the Klan had nowhere to hide, marking the first time terrorism against Black Americans faced real consequences. What happened next? Unfortunately, this success was short-lived. When Reconstruction ended in 1877, federal enforcement stopped, troops left the South, and the will to prosecute Klan violence faded. In 1882, the Supreme Court struck down parts of the Ku Klux Klan Act. Without enforcement, racial terrorism continued through Jim Crow laws, lynching, and the Klan's rebirth in 1915. Yet the legal framework from the 1870s never vanished. Section 1983 still lets people sue officials for civil rights violations, and lawyers today use other parts of these laws to combat modern political violence. The lesson history forgot. The enforcement acts show that terrorism can be defeated when the government has the will and authority to act. These laws worked because they were strong, enforced aggressively, and carried real consequences. Within a year, a violent organization that terrorized entire states was nearly destroyed. Although the success was temporary, it proved what's possible when a government truly commits to protecting civil rights. It remains a rare moment in U.S. history when federal power was fully used against organized terrorism. The KKK wasn't defeated by silence or patience. It was dismantled by laws with teeth and leaders willing to enforce them. That part of history challenges the idea that progress happens naturally without resistance or accountability. The real lesson here isn't just about the past. It's about what actually works when democracy is under threat. What part of this history did you never hear before? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I like to hear what stood out to you. Like the video, subscribe, and share this with someone interested in real, untold history. Until next time, question the omissions, study the facts, and remember that justice only moves when it's enforced.